So here's our iris dataset visualization back where we left it with the tooltips working, and you know the padding on that tooltip is just a little annoying. So we're just going to fix it. You're going to find this a lot in your own projects where you just go over and back trying to fix these things. So we'll put that out to 10. Take a look. And that doesn't look any different to me. So back again, boot it out to 20, reload, take a look. Fifteen will do it. Okay, I'm gonna settle with that because you know you can only spend so much time going back and forth on it. We'll just take in the width a bit. I'll change that to 175, I think. Okay, I'll leave it at that because otherwise you'll be here all day moving it, pixel here, pixel there. What's the point? Okay, so today we're going to look at axes. Bold is love. We're going to attach two axes to the chart, x-axis, y-axis, and we're going to look at how customizable they are. And the answer is very customizable indeed. So just going to label what we created here without labeling, so the visualization and the tooltip, and we'll put the axes here above the tooltip. Doesn't matter where you put them. This just makes kind of a sense. So the first thing you do is create axis functions. X-axis is D3 axis bottom, takes parameter of X scale. Y-axis is D3 axis left, which takes a parameter Y scale. That done, we call plot. We append a G object to the plot. So we're going to locate it on the plot using transform translate. Use backticks for translate because we're going to use an interpolated string. So our first translation is 0. The X translation says keep this at 0x, and our Y is plot height, which is the bottom because it measures from the top. Set an attribute of a class attribute, which is axes, and then we're going to call the function that we just created, x-axis. And then we're going to do the same for the y-axis. So we're going to copy that and just change the vital characteristics. So we change the name to y-axis. We'll get rid of the backticks for normal quotation marks. This becomes 0, 0. Change this to y-axis. And I didn't put in the y there, so y-axis. So take a look at the fox. That didn't work. Reload the fox, and here we are. There are our lovely axes. Fantastic. So you see that the ticks and stuff are formatted automatically. You might have been wondering about axis bottom and axis left. That refers to the side that the ticks are on. So axis bottom says put them on the bottom of the axis. Axis left says put them on the left. We switched them, and now we see that the ticks are on top and on the right. Which obviously isn't suitable for this graph, so we change back to what we had at the start. Now, the ticks are quite customizable. The ticks and tick lines on an axis are quite customizable, and you can do a lot with them depending on your own aesthetic or need or what you think will work best for the visualization. So we're going to look at something here where we are going to make the axis line itself disappear. So we call x-axis, again, one of the reasons why we give all these objects names, to make shortcuts like these easier. Call select with dot domain as an argument and chain removed that. Back to the Fox, reload, and you see that our x-axis line has disappeared. You know, there might be a case for leaving them off. It depends. So that obviously, you know, you keep the ticks, but you just remove the x-axis. Otherwise, you just wouldn't create an axis at all, would you? What would be the point? So here's our axis back again. Now, the next thing that you can do is control the number of x ticks. The D3 calculates the ticks automatically, but you can set it to no ticks at all, as we've done here. All the ticks are gone, or you can say just 2 ticks, please. And again, these will be automatically calculated for you. There's another little wheeze where you'll notice at the end of the axis that there are 2 tick lines that go down to demarcate the end of the axis. And you can turn these tick lines off. So hit reload, and you see there on the right hand side there's no tick line going down. And we can set that to a particular height. Here it's back at 10. If you set it to 100, you'll see it goes off the chart on both sides. Again, you know, it's a very fine level of granularity, which in one way is fantastic, and in another way might be overkill. But when it's there, I thought I'd mention it because, you know, thorough. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to look at rotating the ticks on an axis. I should say the ticks are the actual numbers. They're not ticks, they're the numbers. So it's 0.5, 1.5, whatever. Okay, so x-axis, select all text, and then we are going to translate it, and we're going to do 2 things. Or we're going to transform it, and in transforming it, we're going to translate and rotate it. So we're going to translate it -10 and 10, just to give ourselves a bit of wriggle room for the rotation. And then we're going to set the rotation at -45. The degrees in D3, sorry, the angles in D3 are in degrees rather than radians. So that's handy. Because, you know, we're all used to we're all used to degrees. The radians can be a pain. Okay, so doesn't really matter on this text, but with longer labels, with longer ticks, it'd obviously make a difference. Now, we can also change the tick color, which is so we're going to select all tick text here. Going to call attribute stroke, and we'll fill it with red. We're filling it with red because it's the most obviously different, you know, to show that something has happened. You'd never fill it with red in real life because it looks horrible, and you don't want things to look horrible on your visualization. I'm just saying that you can do it. If the notion takes you to put in different color for the ticks, you can. Okay, might as well put some labels on the text now. That's the next thing to do. So we call plot and we append a G to plot, as it's nearly automatic with us now. We're going to append text to that G. We're going to give it an attribute, which is class axis label. Now we're going to have to locate the thing. So we want this text to appear at the point plot width, which is the end point of the of our visualization, and we want the y coordinate of this text to be plot height. Why plot height? We want it to be plot height because plot height is the de facto 0 of the plot. But if it's exactly plot height, then you're going to write the label over the ticks, and that's no good. So we're going to add half a margin so that the distance between the bottom between the plot and the canvas is half. And we're going to call that petal length, and that's our X label. So the Y label is similar but different. Plot append G append text attribute class is going to be the same. Obviously it's going to be the same. But here the X is 0 because we want it at the start on the left hand side, and the Y is going to be minus margin left divided by 2. So again, we're following the same pattern. We want it halfway between the size of the canvas and the halfway between the canvas and where the plot begins. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to rotate it minus 90 degrees so that it runs in the same order as the text. So let's go have a look at that. And here it is, and it's working and it's not. So we see our labels, but they're not really where we want them to be. But this is not a disaster. It's actually quite a simple fix. We go to our CSS here, and in the CSS, having taken care to give the labels a class, we can now style that class in the CSS. Quite a simple style. We're going to set the text anchor to end, so that the text is drawn from the start. So from the start of the text, it's drawn by default. Here we're going to draw it from the end, so that it matches the end of our axes, which is what we were looking for earlier. I will give it a font size of 12 because that seems reasonable. Again, a bit of back and forth happens in these. Nothing happened on reload. We have to relaunch the Fox. Again, it's not meant to cache, but it does cache. And here are our labels, and they're correctly aligned. You see how the end of the text is correctly aligned with the end of both axes. The only problem with it is that it's a little crushed to the it's a little crushed against the ticks. So we have a problem now about how to adjust that so that having it halfway between the canvas and the plot isn't working. So we're going to, instead of moving it halfway, we are going to move it a third of the way from the canvas edge, and which will then be 2/3 of the way from the plot edge. So there's a bit more room, and that's worked. And we do the same for the x-axis. Just move it a bit lower away from the ticks so it's not and there we go, perfect, beautiful. Okay, so this now is a scatter plot. This is how to create a scatter plot, the Irish scatter plot. Once create one scatter plot, you create them all. All you do is change the data and the labels. That's it, scatter plots done and dusted. Hurrah. Next week, or next time out, we're going to look at line charts because they're fun. Please like and subscribe the video. Live long and prosper.